a teacher, Sunday school teacher, she's talking to her kids in the Sunday school class, and she says, if I sold my house and I sold my car and I gave all the money to the church, could I get into heaven? The kid said, no. She was glad. She's like, that's right, good. She said, if I cleaned the church every day, I mowed the grass every week, and I painted the church every summer, could I get into heaven? The kid said, no. She said, oh, good. She felt proud. She was happy. Yeah, my kids are smart. I've taught them well. She said, if I ask Jesus into my heart, I ask him to forgive my sins and be the leader of my life, could I get into heaven? The kid said, no, and now it all went away. She wasn't proud at all. That was the right answer. She was looking for a yes. They said no. She said, what do you mean no? The kid raised his hand and said, you got to be dead. Kids look at things a little differently than we do sometimes. Today is, as I've already said, is the first Sunday of the new church year. And I'm excited. I'm excited because you may have heard this said by someone before me. God is doing something good here, and great days are ahead. And that's why I'm excited. I'm excited about this church year. It's going to be good. Last week I spoke, and it's a bit of an end-of-the-year wrap-up, right? And today I want to declare a verse and a theme for this year. See, I kind of said last week, I said, well, this is kind of what we did, and this verse kind of encapsulates it. But this week, I want to use as a launch. Instead of a wrap-up, I want to shoot out from here. I want this to be a declaration. Now, we talked last week about, clearing up the rubble of our past, building the walls of our future. We celebrated a new member, and we celebrated 3 baptisms. It was awesome. We talked about the fact that a firm foundation with strong walls is going to enable us to reach new people. And then I told that story about the one. That's exactly what's happening here at our church, and that's awesome. I believe, you hear me say I believe this church year is one in which we're going to see many new people come through our doors. They're going to sing and pray and grow in Christ with us. I believe that. But the truth is, we can't just keep doing what we've been doing and wait for God to send them through the door. Okay? He does that. I told you a story last week. He absolutely does that. But we can't just sit back and wait. This verse that I think it encapsulates what our mission for this year is. Our mission. And it's from Psalm 78, verse 4. If you're turning in your Bible, Psalm 78, verse 4. And it says this: we will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. I'm going to read that to you again. You're going to hear this. I decided this morning I'm going to make a poster. It's going in the hallway, in the foyer. This is what we're doing this year. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. This next year, our emphasis needs to be on sharing the gospel. Not just the story of salvation, but our stories of salvation and our stories of answered prayer and our stories of blessings beyond measure. Because those stories that we already have, those are God's stories. So we will tell God's story. Do you agree? Can you say that? We will tell God's story. Some of you caught on quick, and the rest of you seem to join in. That's exactly it. We will tell God's story. Now I want to interrupt this whole message for today and make a community announcement. At our library here in New Cumberland, the Swaney Memorial Library, they've got their summer reading program starts next Monday, a week from tomorrow. And here's the thing. The librarians, the 2 of them that work there, they went to this training and with NASA, actually. And they got trained. And so for their summer reading program, they're going to have these robotics kits. And they've learned how to use them and how to teach kids how to use them. And so they've got 9 of them coming in, and that's what they're going to teach kids what to do during their reading program. I guess it'll be some technical reading, how to work these robotics things, okay? Well, and that sounds super awesome. It's for ages birth through 18. Now, Carl's not going to learn how to run a robot just yet. But some of our older kids, that could be very cool. A really neat opportunity. I wish it was birth through 37 because I would go. It's cool. Sounds cool. But here's the best part. If you go for the 5 days of the summer reading program, when it's over, you're certified. And they're going to have the kits for another 4 weeks. And you can go anytime the library is opening. And if you're certified to use it, you can use it. So this whole computer robotic thing be pretty awesome to do. Pretty exciting. If you know a kid or grandkid, a neighbor, anybody that's interested, do that. They gave me some flyers. I'll give you one. They're at the Welcome Center. Now, I know that because I went to the library the other day. I had a question about something else. And then the lady asked me, she knew I was a pastor. Word's getting out. I'm recognizable. I'm the face of this church. That's not anyway. She said, "Do you have a youth group at your church?" And I told the truth. I said, "Yeah, we do. Not much. We don't have a lot. We don't have a big one. I don't know what she was meaning exactly, but we do have some teenagers." And then she said, "Well, kids too." And I said, "Yeah, we got some kids." And so then she told me about it because she wants kids to come. That's the whole point. And then she told me, I don't know what church she goes to, and it doesn't matter. I'm glad she goes to church. She said at her church, she is, and I don't know how old she is, but she's older than me. She's the second youngest person at her church. The youngest person at her church is her daughter. And that's it. And so she said, I don't have a lot of people to invite. If they don't come into the library right now, I don't know them because they don't come to my church. And so she wasn't sure. She's like, she didn't know. Does your church even have, young people? And, compared to that church, wow, we've got a blessing of young people. We've got a ton. But we've certainly got room for more. So I was looking, I did some research on the internet. And in America, less than 20% of Americans are over the age of 60. But more than half of us today, I think. I'm not going to get in your business. I don't need to know your actual ages, but if I just guess, I think it's a pretty safe bet that about half of us are that. So we don't represent the demographic of America in the right way. So when we look at this verse, that we will not hide these truths from our children, we will tell the next generation that whatever generation you're in, the one after you is in need of a big old dose of church. Okay, every generation has fallen off. They're not represented in church. They're not coming anymore. Now, we've got some in every age group just about. Some decades, we might only have one couple. But we do represent, actually, I don't know if we have a single person in their 20s yet. Brooklyn's almost there. And we don't have anybody. We got a couple ladies claiming they're still 29, but we know that's not true. Now so some of you have kids. Most of us have kids, but some of you have kids that you're praying for because they're not in a relationship with the Lord right now. And they've moved away. The truth is, they're not going to be served by this church because they don't live here. They might visit, they might come with you to church, but the ones that have moved away, we can't serve them. We can reach out to them, we can love them, we can pray for them, but we're not going to transform their life. But here's what I want to tell you. You might not realize this. There are people your kids' age in our community right now, and their parents live somewhere else, and they're praying that some church would get a hold of their kids because they don't have the right relationship with the Lord either. And we can be the answer to their prayers. We can reach out and do exactly what we're hoping and praying some church does for our kids wherever they are. That we need an influx of people in their 50s in this church. We need an influx of people in their 40s. We need some folks in their 30s. We even need some millennials. We need them. We need them because they need to be in a relationship with the Lord. And we need them because God has told us over and over again, he said, go to them. He said, help them. He said, serve them. He said, love them. And he said, convince them. Not just tell them, but convince them that God loves them and wants to be in a relationship with them. Now, there's a story out there. You might have heard about the origins of eBay. You all know eBay, right? I'm talking about a lot of internet stuff today. eBay, the auction site. Well, you may have heard, so there's this guy, he's a computer programmer, and his wife collects Pez dispensers. And finally they reached the boiling point. He said, we're not having any more Pez dispensers. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to sell them. And who's going to buy them? I don't know. The internet. And that is how they created eBay from that. Have you heard that? Anyone heard that story? I'd actually heard it. Here's the deal. It's not true. That's not how eBay started. Some people recognized an auction site would be a good idea, and they created it. Have you heard about the hysteria that happened when Orson Welles read The War of the Worlds on the radio that first time? All the people are thinking it's real, and they drive out and all this crazy stuff. It's not true either. People pretty much laughed it off as a joke the first time, it turns out. Some people believed it, I'm sure, but it wasn't there was no mass hysteria. But that's what we've heard. When Christopher Columbus discovered America, he wasn't like the intellectual trailblazer. It wasn't that everybody else believed in a flat earth. That wasn't the case. Like, people thought the earth was round. Some believed in a flat earth, but he had people support him. They believed him. I think you're right. This is probably true, and it wasn't even his idea. Somebody else gave it to him. George Washington never chopped down a cherry tree. Robin Hood was never real. They say he was based on reality. That's not true. These are well-designed, well-told stories. We remember them and we believe them because they resonate with something that we hold true or deeply believe. That makes sense. Yeah. That fits into my brain situation. So that seems true. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to store that away, and that's the truth. Paul in Romans wrote in the first chapter, verses 19 and 20, he said, they, being all people, they know the truth about God because he has made it obvious to them. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power, and divine nature. What that means is that God's story will resonate with all people if we find the right way to tell it. Do you understand that? His story will make sense to them when we explain that, no, there is an all-powerful, loving creator that wants to have a relationship with you. Those words probably won't work. But when we find the way to tell that truth, that they understand it, they will believe it because their insides already know it. He has imprinted it on them. He has imprinted it in trees and in sky and in everywhere. The truth is not a thing that is hidden from them. It is just a thing that has been disguised from them. I've heard stories from some of you about how you tell people, like from time to time, hey, you need to be in church, or hey, you should come to church, And some of you are actually here because of that exact invitation. That's true. But the truth is that type of invitation is not super effective. There's a lot of guilt and shame involved in that, and those are not things that our society is responding to very much anymore. And so that invitation, which is well-intentioned and is awesome because so few people are willing, to do the hard thing and do that and speak up, I applaud you for it. But a shift in how we make that invitation will be more effective. We need to make the effort to make this place inviting. We've talked about that last week, how it's becoming this thing. We need to make the effort to make ourselves inviting in personality, in priority, in our words and our actions. Now, here's the thing. There are jobs coming to Weirton. We know about that, right? There are jobs coming to Beaver. That means people. Did you realize this? That 3 restaurants have opened in New Cumberland in the last 6 weeks? 3 restaurants in the last 6 weeks. The reason is that people are headed to our community, and they know it. That's why they put a restaurant there, to serve people that are coming. Many of them are going to be looking for a church. Some of them maybe won't be looking, but they'll be open to the idea of finding a church home. And those families are going to have kids. One of the big focuses and efforts in our mission to tell the next generation absolutely needs to be to strengthen and improve our children's department, our nursery, and our youth group. Because here's the truth. If children can't come and be comfortable and happy in church, then their parents can't either. It's just a fact. You understand that? Even however great this service might be, I mean, you got the preacher and he can sing the songs or whatever. However much they might enjoy it, if their kids are in the back, I hate this, I don't want to be here, it's going to be harder and harder every Sunday to get back in the car. We've got to go both ways, okay? We've got to strengthen both sides. So why not work to make that a strength of this church? All year of this, 2017, we've had different people taking the offering, right? They come up and they tell us what their ministry they're a part of, and they tell you how you can be a part of it. And that's been good. I like it. This year we need to use that time, this church year, to tell our stories. I remember a handful of the people that took offering, okay? There's been about 27, I think I looked at the calendar, that have taken offering. I remember a handful of those people. And the two that stand out the most are when James came up and said, today is the anniversary of the day that I accepted the Lord in my life. And the other one I remember the most when Roger came up and said, let me tell you about how I didn't think that tithing was an option for us, but then we tried it, and God was faithful. I remember them because they were stories about how God is real, about how God has made the difference. We all have these stories. That's the truth, most of us at least. Maybe you told them at church. Maybe you've told them to your best friend. Maybe you think that everybody knows it, but as time goes by, this church changes. Who's here changes. Some of us some of you forget. Oh, I've never heard that before. Yeah, I told you yesterday. But that's how things go. Not everyone knows it. And we need to get in the practice of telling our story because we will tell God's story. That's why. We need to tell our story. So this is big. I'm putting a sign-up sheet at the Welcome Center. It's in my office right now. I'm going to walk out after service and put it in the Welcome Center. I need you. We need you to just pick a date and say, yeah, I'll take offering that day. I'll take offering. I'll just walk up. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to have a sermon. I need someone to come up and say, God has made a difference for me. And that can be enough, or you can say how, and then ask the usher to come and pray. Because we need it. When people come to the church for the first time, their minds are full of questions, of course. What's the music like? What's the pastor like? What are the people like? What's the point of this place? Okay? They're going to hear the music. That answers pretty quickly. They're going to hear the preaching. They'll get a clue. They're going to meet you. They're going to find out that we're welcoming. We're pretty warm and nice. But what if every single week they heard a personal story from one of us about how God has made the difference for us? See, that would speak directly to the question, what is the point of this place? They would hear us talk about our prayers. They would hear us give God glory for what he's done. They would learn that we're a house of prayer and a house of praise. They would learn that God is doing something good here and that great days are ahead. Psalm 78:4 says, we will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about his glorious deeds, about his power and his mighty wonders. Let's tell God's story.